welcome to another version of the Common Constitutionalist Weekend Audio Podcast. I got my camera technical problems straightened out, but now I'm sick as a doggy do. And so I feel like crap and I look worse, so I'm doing this audio because you're probably not going to want to see me on video. So this weekend or today we're going to be talking about, first off, the sugar tax. Yes, the Seattle sugar tax has been implemented as of January 1st, 2018. And second topic is going to be a study of cartoon dialects. So we're going to talk about those two things today on the Common Constitutionalist.
You are listening to the Common Constitutionalist, broadcasting from an undisclosed location, free from the prying eyes of establishment black helicopters.
All right, welcome back. So this first one comes to us. There's two segments to this. One comes from The Blaze, and the other comes from KIRO TV in Seattle, Washington. So The Blaze writes that Costco price labels perfectly expose the absurdity of Seattle's new sugary drink tax, and boy, howdy, doesn't it? To ring in the new year, they write, Seattle implemented a new tax on its residents, the dreaded sugary drink tax. Now we know just how much the tax will hurt consumers, but just how bad is it? Well, it's pretty freaking bad. Here we go. Pricing labels at a Seattle Costco have garnered much attention because they show just how much soda and other sugary drinks now cost Seattle residents. A CBS News manager tweeted pictures showing the price increase of two drinks. In the first case, the price of a case of Dr. Pepper, which is 36 cans now, I always thought it was 24, but whatever, nearly doubled. According to the picture, and I've seen the pictures and they are rather startling, according to the picture, Costco sells the soda, a case of Dr. Pepper, for $9.95. But with the added tax of, dig this, $7.56, the soda now costs customers, a case of Dr. Pepper will cost you in Seattle $17.55 big ones. Unfreaking believable. In the second case, Costco sells a case of Gatorade for $15.99, but then they add the tax of $10.34 to the price, and it brings the case of Gatorade to a whopping $26.33. If that's just not ridiculous, I don't know what is. And the neat part about it is that unlike your cable bill, your phone bill, and whatnot, it's not hidden. Everything is right out there, and it says the cost of the case, then the sugary tax, and then the total underneath it. It shows it right on the label. It shows the price of the product, then the price of the privilege of living in the Nanny State, and the penalty that you pay for not consuming government-blessed products. And that's the bottom line, is that they are penalizing you for not consuming what they think are healthy drinks. This is just the beginning, people. All right, so that was from The Blaze. Now from KRO TV in Seattle, they say that sticker shock over Seattle's new sugary drink tax are being felt by consumers. You might have seen a picture circulating on social media, blah, 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 the $10 tax at Costco, blah, 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 blah. We already covered that. And on Friday, this past Friday, consumers were there taking picture of their own, and the CBS affiliate was on scene to capture this. Of course, the city had to get out in front of this debacle, and so they claim that advocates of the tax held a press conference on Friday to explain how the city plans to use the $15 million expected to be raised from the tax in 2018. Remember that number, expected to raise $15 million. Now, they haven't raised $15 million. That's what they expect to raise if all things remain the same. So one Costco shopper loaded a case of Coca-Cola into her cart, not noticing the new price until KIRO 7 pointed it out. That much, said Vilma Villagran, who was buying a case for her family. The regular case of Coke is now $7.35 more expensive than the Diet or Coke Zero. I knew it was going to be high, but not this crazy high, Villagrán said. Other shoppers, they write, or report, I guess, other shoppers closely read the sign, which explains that as of January 1, Seattle shoppers are paying 1.75 cents per ounce on sugar-sweetened beverages, something shoppers are really noticing when buying in bulk. The tax has many people opting for diet soda. Now, supporters of the tax said that's the point, not necessarily to switch to diet soda, but getting consumers to go for healthier options. And so, once again, it's the government stepping in, picking winners and losers. And this is what they have, the skill that practically the only skill that local, state, and federal government has mastered is getting people to do what they want them to do. Quote, I'm just very excited, unquote, said Jim Krieger, who is on the committee for Seattle Healthy Kids Coalition and is the executive director of Health Food America. A quote, the hope is consuming of the unhealthy product which causes heart disease, diabetes, and such will go down, the sugary drinks to go down, and we fully expect that to be the case, Krieger said. And of course they added the other purpose is for tax dollars. What a shocker. And so the bottom line basically is one purpose is a means of control of the people, and the other purpose is to soak them for their tax money. Those are the two purposes. It ain't to make kids healthy, believe you me. All these people have jobs because of this kind of government intrusion nonsense. And without this kind of government intrusive nonsense, these people wouldn't be employed, or they'd have to go to the academic sector, which also gets most of their money for grants and whatnot from the federal government. Okay, so now remember that $15 million mark that they expect to raise? The $15 million that Seattle expects to raise from the tax will go towards programs that will help people who are in need of having better access to fresh fruits and vegetables. The money will also fund education programs and graft for other politicians and whatnot. Oh, they don't add that, but I did because that's a cinch. So we're going to, I'm going to take a quick break and cough my lungs out for a minute, get a drink, and I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. So back at Costco, signs above each taxed sugary drink reminded shoppers that you can leave the city and buy the product without paying the tax. What a novel idea. And that's what Villagrán plans to do. Quote, I'll have to go to Tukwila, I don't know, Washington. That's the closest to me, unquote, she said. Cairo 7 has talked with worried business owners, but city council members say they've looked at the data from other cities and that have had this tax. Quote, do you have any concerns at all about this hurting local businesses and driving shoppers out of Seattle? Unquote, Cairo 7's D.D. Sun asked city council members at the press conference on Friday. A quote, we did not see any data that really shored up the argument that this hurts local businesses, unquote, said Lorena Gonzalez, a Seattle City Council member. Of course, the Seattle City Council aren't running local businesses, so what the crap do they care whether local businesses suffer or not? They're still going to get paid for their silly jobs anyway. Quote, there's a lot of cross-border shopping. People realize it's not worth my while, unquote, Krieger said. One of his roles with Seattle Healthy Kids Coalition is to follow the impact of the sugary drink taxes in other cities. Okay, now remember that $15 million that they expect to raise. Well, most of the 2018 tax money has already been allocated to programs and one-time administrative costs. The city said that for the first year, they have higher administrative costs to implement the tax, as well as to set up and expand programs. Right now, there's still about $3 million of the $15 million to be allocated for 2018. But remember, they expect to raise $15 million. They haven't raised dime one. I mean, well, maybe a few dimes, that's about it. But since it's only the 7th of January, how much money could they have raised by now? Not much. So they expect to raise $15 million, but they've already spent 12 of the $15 million. And if they don't raise the $15 million, then what do? Gee, I wonder. And isn't that just fabulous? I would love to do. I guess lots of people do that. They run up their credit card debt and whatnot and expect to be able to pay it, and then they lose their jobs. But unlike the city council, they can't just requisition more funds or raise your taxes. I just thought that quite amusing, the fact that they expect to raise money and then they've already spent what they expect to raise. That's just brilliant. Only the public sector. And like I said, this is only going to be the beginning. We all realize that. I mean, this has already been enacted in several cities in California and whatnot. And there have been losers throughout. You'll never see official academic or public sector studies to that effect, but they're losing tax revenue because of this. And, of course, small businesses, small and large businesses are losing out because you can go right outside the city limits and purchase whatever you want without paying their silly tax. And so it is hurting. It will hurt Seattle just as it has hurt other cities. But these people don't seem to care because pushing their agenda is more important. And justifying their positions either at these study groups or in the public, just in the public sector in general, that's the most important thing. So we're going to take a quick break, and I'll be right back with the second and last segment. You're listening to me, the Common Constitutionalist.
Yeah, baby! Yeah!
All righty. Okay, we are back. Man, I wish I didn't feel like crapola. About once a year, maybe once every other year, I get sick for maybe 1, 2, 3 days at the most, and that's about all I get. But it's usually wicked. I usually am down for the count, achy all over, the whole stereotypical thing. And then I'll just wake up one morning and feel fine, and that'll be that for the balance of the year or however. But I guess that this ridiculous cold up here in New England has taken its toll on my body. So anyway, let's get to this thing. This is from The Atlantic, and it's a study of... I can't believe what people get away with studying. I just don't... whatever. Okay. So when sociolinguist... just incredible. When sociolinguist Calvin Gidney saw The Lion King in theaters 2 decades ago, he was struck by differences between Mufasa and Scar. Now, if you've never seen The Lion King, this won't do anything for you. If you have, those are the two lions. One's the good father and one's the bad uncle. Scar's the bad uncle. Mufasa's the good father. But if you have had kids, you've seen this movie 1,000 times. Like me. The characters don't have much in common. Mufasa is heroic and steadfast, while Scar is cynical and power-hungry. But what Gidney noticed most was how they each spoke. Mufasa had an American accent, while Scar, the lion of the dark side, roars in British English. In a climactic scene in which Scar accuses Simba, the little heroic tyke, of being a murderer, responsible for Mufasa's death, the final R in his declaration floats up into the sky, bursting with lightning, and it's hard to imagine it sounding quite as monstrous in any tone. A murderer. Yeah, I remember that scene. So Gidney, an associate professor in child studies and human development at Tufts University, who specializes in sociolinguistics, saw Scar's accent as part of a disturbing pattern in the film. Foreign accents and non-standard dialects were being used to voice all the bad characters. Dun dun dun. Perish the thought, huh? But I ask you, who but a lib, who but a leftist would notice this kind of crap or care about it if they did notice it? But of course, leftists, they're always on the lookout. They're always looking out to be offended. And this guy obviously is no different. Gidney, they continue, Gidney also noticed that Scar's minions, the hyenas, spoke in either African-American English or English with a Spanish accent main. Gidney found this trend concerning, especially since the theme of the movie could be described as the natural order of things, of course. And the natural order of things, of course, is white bread, white America is number one, and everyone else is, less than number one. We'll just say that. He said that quote, I thought it was really disturbing that it was necessary to take back the jungle, unquote, from the British-sounding evil lion, plus the African-American sounding and Latino-sounding hyenas. All right, so hold on a minute here. Because aren't the British supposed to be synonymous with original evil? The evil colonialists, the evil slave traders and whatever? And why? And now he's also a black professor. So why would he object to that? Why would he object to the British being the evil SOBs, for want of a better term? Why would he object to the British being the villains? It doesn't make any sense. I mean, for forever, until America took over the number one villainy spot, the British were known as, like I said, the colonialists, the slave traders. There was nothing good about the British. They came over here and they killed all the Indians and blah, 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 blah. And so I don't understand why this guy, as a black college professor, would care. Wouldn't he revel in this, the fact that the British are evil? Seems to me he would. But Gidney was inspired to embark on a study of language patterns in animated kids' entertainment, teaming up with Julie Dobrow, a senior lecturer at Tufts who specializes in issues of children and media, to study how these trends play out on kids' television shows. They've since analyzed about 30 shows and about 1,500 characters, and they're still working at the project to this day. For their initial study in 1998, Gidney and Dobrow had a team of coders analyze 323 animated TV characters using measures such as ethnic and gender identification, physical appearance, hero/villain status, and linguistic markers. And this all occurred. See, we're only getting kind of wind of this stuff within the past decade or less. The gender studies stuff, all the other crap studies, and all this other stuff, ethnic studies and everything else, the Black Lives Matter movement and all this stuff. But they started this back in 1998, yet we haven't heard about this until recently. Heck, I didn't hear about this until basically now, when I found the article. So these guys are seriously ahead of the curve. So the coders tested a random sample of 12 shows which spanned a variety of networks, airtimes, and genres. Their findings suggested that lots of kids' shows use language to mark certain traits in a given character. All but 2 of the shows study correlated dialect, a term that refers here to any particular variety of language, with characters' personality traits in some way. And the kicker, they write, in many of these cases, villains were given foreign accents. A modern-day Dr. Heinz Doofenshmirtz, and if you have children over the past decade or so, small children, you've watched the Phineas and Ferb show, and you know all about Dr. Heinz Doofenshmirtz. I certainly do. The bad guy in Phineas and Ferb, who speaks in a German-ish accent and hails from the fictional European country of Drusselstein. Meanwhile, the study found that most of the heroic characters in research sampled... Sorry there, I had to hit the cough button there. Let's start over again, shall we? Meanwhile, the study found that most of the heroic characters in their research sample were American-sounding. Only 2 heroes had foreign accents. Since television is a prominent source of cultural messaging for children, this correlation of foreign accents with bad characters could have concerning implications for the ways kids are taught to engage with diversity in the United States. Yes, of course, it all comes back to diversity and the fact that America bad, rest of the world good. And that apparently includes the evil English, of which I was not aware that they were good of any kind. I mean, except when they come out against Israel. Meh, that makes them good, I suppose. But they found the most wicked foreign accent was British English, according to the study, from Scar to Aladdin's Jafar. Remember him, too. Jesus, I've probably watched all these Disney movies with the kids 8 million times, as I'm sure most of you parents have, too. From Scar to Aladdin's Jafar, the study found that British is the foreign accent most commonly used for villains. And that doesn't just go with, look at the Bond movies. Almost every villain had a British accent, had a deep British accent. I think one was kind of German-ish, but for the most part they had deep British accents. But they write German and Slavic accents are also common for villain voices, but henchmen or assistants to villains often spoke in dialects associated with low socio-economic status, including working-class Eastern European dialects or regional American dialects, such as the Italian-American gangster, like in Bugs Bunny cartoons. None of the villains that they sampled in the sample study seemed to speak standard American English. When they did speak with an American accent, it was always in a regional dialect associated with low socio-economic status. Oh, brother. And they go on to write that animated shows aren't too careful in depicting how dialects actually work. They often use sloppy approximation of an accent as opposed to accurate renderings. You know why? Because they're for kids, and they don't waste a lot of money on production costs and whatnot, because they're cartoons for children, and they don't have to worry about this nonsense, because I guess they just don't worry about you dopes studying them all the time. And then, so this thing is a massive article, and it goes on for hundreds or thousands more words, and I'm not going to bore you with it. And another thing that I found, difficult, I found frankly impossible to find, at least on the interweb, was where they're getting the funding for all these studies and everything. Now, I can bet you dollars to donuts that they're getting the funding somehow, either directly or indirectly, from our federal government. In 98, obviously, it would have been the Clinton administration. And it really doesn't make any difference what administration's in there. When working with the deep state, for want of a better term, the bureaucracy is so thick and the money's flowing so fast that no one can keep track of it anyway. So all you got to do is put your hand out and say, I want to do this study, and they give you, a $500,000 or whatnot, and say, knock yourself out, go do this study. Particularly if it's attached to some premier university, preeminent university like Tufts University. Of course, you're going to get the funding for your silly socio-linguistic study. What a joke. So that's about all I've got for today. This is the sickly Common Constitutionalist. I'm Brent Smith, the Common Constitutionalist. Okay, fine. I didn't hit the cough button. Boo-hoo for me. Any rate, you all have a great balance of the weekend, and I hope it's going to warm up someday soon in New England, because, boy, man, we are getting tired of single digits and negative numbers up here. So that is all I've got. See ya.